Good evening and welcome to EnlightenMental. Today's episode is going to be talking about anxiety in dark times. Stay tuned. Do you ever get the feeling that you are starting from behind the start line? Do you ever feel like everybody else is doing blah, 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 XYZ? They're way ahead of you. They have a leg up. They have, they're stepping on something. They're on something already, kind of elevating them, helping them to get to the next step. And you just feel like you're so far down that reaching the next rung on the ladder is just so hard. What the heck am I talking about? So this could be related to anything. It could be your career. It could be your mental health. It could be your relationship status. It could be your parenting. It could be anything. It could even be a financial situation. You feel like everybody else is doing better than you. I want to highlight something to you, just because this was on my mind. So this is one of these unscripted, unplanned EnlightenMental episodes. You feel this way, yes. I can understand it. The truth is, our minds tend to seek out and find people who are already doing what we want to do. It's easier to see those people, or at least easier to see the people who appear to be already doing what we're doing without difficulty. And we unrealistically analyze their situation. And when I say unrealistically, it's because, one, we don't really fully have all the information about that person. We can just see the image of their success. You have no idea what went on in the background to get them to where they are. You don't know what they're still currently struggling with just to be there. You don't know how hard it is to maybe stay where they are. The other thing is this: we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people at all. Your point for comparison should be yourself. Have I bettered my current situation? No. Or my previous situation? Have I improved myself in some way? Am I not where I used to be? In fact, sometimes it bears weight to actually be able to think about a dark time in your life previously and look at how far you have come. Because the truth is, there's always some sort of progression upward from that time. If you're currently feeling like you're at rock bottom, I can understand that too. So maybe it would be harder to say that the previous time in your life that you thought was a dark time is better than now, is worse than now, and you've made progress. I can understand that. But one thing I can say is this: with you being alive, with you having the desire to improve, there is hope. And I know that sounds cheesy, I know it sounds corny, and sometimes, especially if you're in that place right now, you don't really want to hear that, because that's what everybody else is telling you, and you're like, how? H-O-W, how can I get from where I am now to where I want to be? How? I'm going to say something else that's cheesy/corny again. You have to not give up. That's the important thing, to not give up. Keep desiring what you desire. Keep working towards it, no matter how difficult. Keep trying to improve yourself and give yourself a break. We are often far too hard on ourselves, far too critical of ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to be human. And humanity means we are imperfect. It means we don't always know everything. It means sometimes we feel broken. In fact, a lot of the time, humans feel broken. And when you feel broken, it's important to let yourself lean on someone, because you cannot fix yourself. Broken people break people. They don't fix themselves or anyone else for that matter. So find someone in a better state than you. Someone who cares about you. Because believe it or not, there is someone there. Someone. If you're religious, I always return to this because, as I have mentioned maybe in previous podcasts, I'm religious, I'm Christian, and I believe in God. And my belief in God has been something that has seen me through my depression, my darkest depressions, and my anxiety. It's what gets me through the day, every single day. That's my belief. Even if it's not yours, I'm just saying this is how I've been coping. If you are religious, that person could be God. And should be God, really, if you're religious. Because when nobody else can help you, he's the only one that can. In fact, oftentimes, again, only if you're religious, oftentimes you find that human beings let you down. Because they are human. They will let you down sometimes. Sometimes they can't help you. And the only person that you have, and probably the first person you should have gone to, is God. I spoke to my therapist one time, and I told her I hadn't been praying, I hadn't been speaking to God, because I didn't really want to say what was in my mind, because I was in a really dark place. So because I didn't want to say what's in my mind, which was anger and kind of frustration and whatever else I was feeling at the time, I said I'd rather not voice that to his hearing, because as far as I'm concerned, I speak respectfully to everyone I meet. And that is not, there's no less of a rule on that when it comes to God. I speak to him with respect. And she said, well, do you believe that God already knows what you're thinking? And I said, well, absolutely, he knows what I'm thinking. She said, well, if you see him as a father and you know he knows what you're thinking, and you're, as a parent yourself, how would you feel if one of your kids had issues, had difficulties, was struggling, and would just come home and go to their room and just lock themselves in there and not speak to you? And I said, I'd feel awful, because I want them to tell me what they're thinking and how they feel, no matter how unpleasant it might sound to me. And in that moment, I was like, I know what she's doing, and I've seen where this is going, and I get the message. A therapist, at least in the UK anyway, a therapist is not really supposed to indicate their own interests in or their own personal religion or anything like that. And they're supposed to treat you according to how your life is. So she already knows this about me, and she's like, this is based on your own belief system. Don't waver away from the thing that you rely on or that you believe in. Rather cling closer to it. Well, I've said all of that to say this. Even if you don't think God will like what you're going to say it to him anyway. Because at the end of the day, if that's what you believe in, that is the person that is your rock. At the end of the day, that is where you go to find solace and peace and answers. Sometimes he's quiet and the answer is not in the silence, but the answer is to just kind of leave all those burdens with him. Anyway, I'm talking a lot about religion, but allow yourself to rely on someone. Tell them something that you feel share your burden. Don't keep it to yourself, because the thing about our anxious and depressed thoughts is that when you keep them in your head, they fester. They seem darker than they are, because, and here's my little analogy about this, your head is like a box, or your mind is like a box. Thoughts in your head are in the box, bouncing around, doing whatever, but the box is closed. Unless you open your mouth and speak and share what's inside your mind, the box is closed. So it's dark in there because there's no light getting in. And the thoughts ping-ponging around your head, ping-ponging around that box, will continue to ping-pong back and forth. you won't be able to stop them unless you actually let the box open up. You have to open up and share with someone that you can trust. I will emphasize, you trust. That person must be someone you can trust. You don't just share with anyone. And even if you don't believe in prayer and you don't believe in God, and I spent quite a bit of time talking about that, but it helps to be able to kind of release what is in the box to what some people would call the universe. Say it out loud. Listen to yourself speaking it. Do you believe what you're hearing? Does it make sense? If not, then dismiss it. And not just dismiss it, tell yourself why that thing doesn't make sense. And why that's not true about yourself, you know? A way I used to do it would be to get a piece of paper and a pen, divide the paper in two, from top to bottom, using a pen and a ruler. Write on the left-hand side all the things you're thinking about yourself. And on the right-hand side, write down the truth about those things. This is not true because. This is just not fair because. This is unrealistic because. The truth about this really is. And do it with compassion. So read through everything you've written about yourself. And if it would help, actually, when you've written down everything about yourself on the left-hand side, read it to yourself and say what you're thinking about that. Like, just say to yourself that person that wrote all that stuff down is your friend, and this is what your friend is thinking about themselves. And you tell them out loud, say out loud what is untrue about those statements. And then you can write them down, or you can just say them and be happy with that on the right-hand side. The next thing I would do is cut the paper in half. So if you have written it down, cut the paper in half. Keep the right-hand side. Take the left-hand side and either rip it to shreds or burn it. Find a safe place to burn it. I burnt it outside and just watch it go up in flames. And then obviously douse the flames out. As it burns into nothing, you realize it's cathartic. It's not quite, it's symbolic, it's cathartic, and it makes you feel good to know that is just, you can release those things with the piece of paper that you've just gotten rid of. Again, I would rather you could shred it if you have a shredder, or you could shred it with your hands, or you could use scissors, or just tearing it to pieces or getting rid of it in a way that destroys those words. Helps you to think to yourself, I'm destroying these thought patterns. And as many times as you need to do this, it is okay to do this. If you have to do it once a day for a week because you're going through a particularly difficult time, that's okay, because the truth of the matter is we are thinking thoughts, several of them at any one time in every single day. And if these are things that have come from past trauma and your childhood and recent events that have been particularly traumatic, there is a likelihood that you will keep thinking those same negative thoughts. Or if you're currently in a difficult situation, like I started with, you're frustrated and you're feeling like things are just going wrong and not going the way you want them to, and you don't feel empowered to be able to fix the issues. You will feel that way several times a day, perhaps. You'll have triggers that will remind you of how you feel and why you feel that way, and you'll blame yourself again, and you have to go through that process again. After a while, you'll start to remember the truth. And every time those thoughts pop into your head, you'll remember the truths almost immediately and be able to counteract them or counter them. And that's really the point. That's what you want to be able to do. It's building up a habit that helps you to cope with those negative thoughts so that you can function, so that you can get on with fixing the issues in your life. So you can be practical rather than mental about it. And when I say mental, I don't mean mental in the way that we use it. I mean mental like keeping it all in your head, but actually doing something about the issues. I hope that something I've said today has been encouraging, has been helpful, and will be useful to you. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you maybe in the next 2 weeks for the next EnlightenMental. Take care now.